They didn't leave me nothing. They didn't leave me anything. First, David Carroll pretty much takes the meat in his classic series, Why White Men Love Black Women's Nappy Hair. Then, the brother of logic and common sense picks up all the breadcrumbs with his classic video where he also gets a piece of the glaze. So the only thing left for me is a little bit of glaze. But I think I can find myself a biscuit to sop up some of this glaze. When it comes down to this Afro American Negro female, the natural hair herbal tea chick who is oftentimes talking about swirling, she is just playing a game on this Negro male. And the Negro male, because he's not very smart, just can't see the glaze regarding this Afro American Negro woman. And that this, as the brother of logic and common sense pointed out, this whole swirling thing is just another one of her psychological tactics that she uses. You see, this Afro American Negro woman, when you look at the facts, she really doesn't have the options that she says that she has. When we look at the Afro American Negro woman, 70% of these Negro females are single. This is cited by your U.S. Census and your Oprah Winfrey Show. Pretty much the statistic is cited by both of those sources, and USA Today as well. This is where I've seen this. And in most cases, there are 4 women for every 1 man and 7 women for every black man. So when we look at the numbers with this Afro American Negro woman, they pretty much tell a completely different story than the one she's coming at us with. And the story that she's coming at you with is, I can't find this good man, and because I can't find a good man, I am forced to go and swirl. And this story that she's putting up is one of the biggest lies of all time. But this is par for the course with your Afro American Negro female. What she's trying to do with this psychological warfare is stir up the emotions of this Afro American Negro man. Because in many cases, this Afro American Negro female knows that this Negro, whenever she makes a statement like this Negro, because he's emotional, is going to react to her. And because he's spending so much time reacting to her threats, he's not thinking critically about the whole situation and how the statistics and the numbers just don't add up for the whole situation. If you look at the statistics again, as I have presented it to you, that there are 7 women for every 1 black man and 4 women for every man on earth, it's just not logical for her swirl plan to even work. But the whole thing is she wants to get this Negro riled up and this Negro to start arguing and fussing with her. Because he knows if he can get her to argue and fuss with her, what's going to happen is she's going to continue to maintain her control over him. Because you have to understand, this Afro American Negro female, her whole goal with relationships is never about love and trust. Her whole goal with relationships is about power and control. And she knows that she can control this Negro through his emotions. And all she has to do is make certain statements with certain buzzwords, and this Negro will start acting out. He will start, getting into arguments with her, getting into fights with her, going on forums and going back and forth with her, because this is what this Negro does all the time. He even does it with other Negro men. He goes back and forth with them, arguing and fussing. And this is how this female maintains control over this Negro, because he spends most of his time reacting to her and going back and forth with her instead of just sitting there and looking at the logic, looking at the statistics, and looking at the numbers and seeing the truth regarding the situation in these relationships. When it comes down to this Negro female, whether she swirls or not, that's not, she can't even swirl. I mean, in most cases, when we look at the statistics again, what do they say about interracial relationships? Say the number one interracial relationship between white men is with Asian women. When it comes down to interracial relationships, Asian women have more relationships that end in marriage with white men than this Afro American Negro female. When you look at the statistics, the Afro American Negro female is the last person most white men consider for marriage in a relationship. So when she comes out with these books talking about swirling and how she wants to get a white guy, the statistics and the numbers just don't bear that out. When it comes down to these white guys who are dealing with this Negro female, in most cases, they're just in it to hit it and quit it. And the reason why they're in it to hit it and quit it is because, again, they have no need for this Negro female. She is not someone he sees as a viable partner in building himself up or building himself up economically or socially. When it comes down to these Negro women, they just have their fun and they go on their way. This is always the way it's been. I mean, I can cite some examples of this. I mean, back after in the 90s when Mike Tyson and Robin Givens had divorced, Robin Givens began dating Brad Pitt. And a lot of people don't know that she was dating Brad Pitt. But when Brad Pitt's social status began to elevate, it was Robin Givens. Same thing with Matthew McConaughey. This white dude who is every white woman's dream. Yeah, he dated a black woman a while back. And when his social status started to rise and he became the hunk on all the covers of People magazine, Negro female, pretty much that he was dating, gone. And same thing with your Mark Paul Gosselaar from Saved by the Bell. He used to date Lark Voorhees. When his social status started to rise, guess who he married? Did not marry Lark Voorhees. So, in most cases, when it comes down to these white guys dating these Negro women, yeah, they'll date them, they'll take them out, and they'll even have a little fun with them. But in most cases, they're not going to marry them unless there are certain parameters there. And that certain parameter is that usually, in most cases, this Negro female usually has lived around white guys and dated white guys exclusively. Case in point, like your Karen Parsons or your Tamara Mowry. But if it comes down to your regular average Negro female who has been dealing with black men, these guys are not really taking it that seriously. And I'll give you another example that happened on the Columbia University campus about 20 years ago. About 20 some years ago, my sister was going to Columbia University. She and my mother were my mother came to visit her, and there was this white guy who was dating this Negro woman, and she had the natural and all that stuff going on. And the white guy and the black woman are together, and they pass by with one of his friends. And the friends are giving him a funny look, so he just darts over to the friends and says, "I'm just using her for sex." This is what this white guy says about this Negro woman he was dating. He doesn't want the friends. He goes to the friends say, "Are you dating her?" or something like that. And he darts over and just says, "I'm just using her for sex." So he's pretty much making a statement how he truly feels about this Afro-American Negro woman right there on that college campus. And my sister and my mother pretty much heard this, and it made them really look at the whole interracial thing that people talk about. And this was 20 years ago, and this is how a lot of these white guys feel about these Negro women. In most cases, when you see these white guys who get involved with this Negro female, with this natural hair and all this stuff, usually they're getting involved with her for economic reasons, just like I stated before. When Brad Pitt was dating Robin Givens, that was for strategic advantage, and once he got his economic status elevated, he got rid of her. Same thing with Matthew McConaughey. When he got his economic status elevated, that black woman was gone. And in the same case, with the most recent one with Halle Berry, with this model Gabriel Aubry, once he started making some money, usually what he did was, no, I'm getting a little mixed up, but what Gabriel Aubry did was he was another low grade white guy. He was a male model, pretty popular somewhat, and what he did was he had a kid with Halle Berry, and what he did was after he had the kid, his social status, it didn't really go up, it really didn't go down, but he gained an economic advantage by being involved with Halle Berry, and because he had gained that economic advantage, because he had a child with her, he went to the courts and got himself a nice little child support payment. And this is what some people say he was living off of, but he got a nice economic advantage with it. Same thing with the new guy, Oliver Martinez. He's getting a nice little economic advantage of it. Usually, when it comes down to white guys getting involved with these Negro women, they're usually in a lower economic tax bracket or a lower economic bracket, and they're using that Negro female as a way to elevate themselves. They use this Negro female as a springboard towards increasing their own economic status. And I can even go back as far as 1994 with the case of your Tanya Pinkins, who was big time actress. She was on the soap opera All My Children, and she was married to one of these white guys. And on the day of her Tony Award, that she won a Tony Award, this guy hits her with the divorce papers. And here in the liberal state of New York, you would think she would have a chance in the courts. What happened was she lost custody of her children. She lost her entire fortune. It was all given to him, and she wound up having to be on welfare. So when you hear these Negro women talking about how they want a swirl and how they want a white guy and how they can't find a Negro, when they go to court, they soon find out that this white guy, again, does not have any real interest in them outside of what he can get economically. Usually, when it comes down to relationships, your white guy is not interested in romance or love. He's looking for an economic advantage. And your Afro American Negro female, in her attempts to make this Negro jealous or to get involved with this white guy, what happens is she usually winds up getting used and abused and then sent right back out all over again. And all these cases I cited are in on Google. You can go look them up. The information on them is all out there, and I've used that information in numerous articles on my blog www.shawnsjames.blogspot.com, and I've used that in my research for the book Why 70% of Black Women Are Single. You can click the link in the description box to go pick that up, because when you listen to this information regarding people talking about they want to swirl, they want to find a white guy, they're looking to get an emotional response out of this Negro. They're looking to make this Negro emotional so they can manipulate and control him. They want to play psychological head games with him. But any black person who has done the research, when they hear these women making these statements about how they want a white guy, how they want to swirl, they will do like I do and become completely indifferent to these hyperbolic statements because they're hyperbole. The chances of these women finding a white guy are less than winning the lottery, and the chances of them marrying a white guy are even lesser than being hit with a bolt of lightning. When it comes down to this Negro female, her whole concept of swirling, you know, is completely ridiculous. Yes, they want the whole thing that they want to do is get this Negro jealous, get this Negro emotional, push his buttons, and get him thinking that she has this high inflated value that she does not. When it comes down to these Negro women, again, there are 7 for every 1 man, and because there are 7 women for every 1 man, most men, pretty much can take them or leave them. I have known this for over 20 years. You can just take them or leave them. But this Negro, because he has a insane idea about these Afro-American Negro women, because he was reared by a single mother, and he has a high value placed on other women based on his idea, based on his single mother, because he has this elevated status of her, and he doesn't have a balanced picture of relationships. He thinks that this woman is a rare and precious commodity. She is not a rare and precious commodity. She does not need to be worshipped. And the whole thing is that if she does not value you, then you don't have to value her. And in most cases, if she wants these white guys, go ahead and she can just go ahead and have them. That doesn't make any skin off of my back, or it shouldn't be off any other black man's back. And if she makes these hyperbolic statements, you just sit there and just listen to them indifferently, because at the end of the day, what's going to happen to her is she's going to usually get involved with the same type of white guys that are the same equivalent of these Negroes. And I went into this in a previous video where I talked about swirling in the quest for the good men. Go check that video out. And she goes from the pool of minstrels and shines in over to the vanilla pudding section of bikers and comic book guys and other sort of white dude, low grade white dudes. And usually because these guys are a smidge smarter, they know how to use this strong, independent, educated Negro female towards gaining an economic advantage for themselves. And because they know how to use her money towards gaining that economic advantage for themselves, such as business contacts and job opportunities, they are able to take themselves up to the middle class. And this is what these white guys do. Because again, they're just a smidge smarter than this Negro. This Negro will sit on the sofa playing Xbox and PlayStation games in her home, and he'll be sitting up here having beefs and arguments with guys on YouTube, while your white guy, in most cases, even though he's poor, is smart enough to say, I'm going to use that same internet to start a business. I'm going to go and dress up a little bit so I can use this woman's business contacts towards elevating myself. That's how he does it. He's just a smidge smarter. And because he's just a smidge smarter, he knows how to do that. And then when he's gotten tired of her, usually if he's had some biracial children with her, what he'll do is he'll either, dump her or he'll divorce her. And because she's making more money than he does, he usually gets himself a nice little fat child support payment on top of it, just like Gabriel Aubry did with the case of Halle Berry, and probably what Oliver Martinez will do sooner or later when he gets tired of Halle Berry. Because most of these white guys know, in most cases, this Negro female, in most cases, even though she's got the natural hair, it's still the same Negro female that was dealing with this Negro. She's still going to be the same way. Yes, she'll be extra nice to him in the beginning during the honeymoon period just to suck him in, but sooner or later, those same dysfunctional behaviors are going to start seeping into their relationship. Because I've heard from white guys on my blog, www.shawnsjames.blogspot.com, in blogs like why 70% of black women are single and why black women will be single for the rest of their lives. I've had white guys tell me that they have the same problems with this Negro female that this Negro male has, and that the same attitude, the same hostility, the same big mouth, the same behaviors start seeping into their relationship whenever they get involved with this black woman. And this same black woman starts trying to push his buttons and starting to get to his emotions. But again, because this guy is a smidge smarter and he's focusing more on money than focusing on trying to have a relationship with this woman, he is at an economic advantage that he can actually walk out of the relationship and go on to something else. And this is what these white guys do after they swirl, because they know when they come out of it, they're not only going to have money, but they're going to have a nice little card saying, I'm not a racist at the end of it. When they listen to this, because they look at this Negro woman, they don't see her as a partner they want in a romantic relationship. They see her as a stepping stone to the middle class and a stepping stone towards taking themselves to the next level. But this Negro female thinks that she's going to use this guy to make this Negro jealous, but at the end of the day, she just winds up usually economically poorer and back in the pool as single, because most guys, white guys, they just see this Negro female again as sex, just like the guy talked about at Columbia University. This is what these guys see her for. They just see her as somebody, nice to have on your arm, nice to get a I'm not a racist card, and nice to have a little fun with. But at the end of the day, in most cases, they're not proposing marriage to most of these Negro women. Again, the only Negro women they want to date and marry, the only black women they date and marry are the ones who live out in the suburbs with them and that they've grown up with. They'll deal with those women in most cases, and they'll marry those. But they're not going to deal with, your average Afro-American Negro female who has 2 or 3 kids by Mr. Shinebone, and then another kid by Pookie. They're not going to deal with that woman and talk about having a serious relationship with her. So for all the hyperbole that she comes at black men with, you know, it's just best for guys to just, tune that out and even laugh at it, because in most cases, when it comes down to this Afro American Negro woman, all she's trying to do is play with the black man's head and get him emotional and get him arguing and going back and forth with her, so that she can maintain some sort of control and feel some sort of artificially inflated value regarding her life and her social status. When you look at this black woman, in most cases, the Negro woman, she is usually at the bottom choice when it comes down to these Asian men and these white men. In most cases, your Asian man is chasing a white woman, and in most cases, your white man is chasing an Asian woman. And both of these guys have 10 times the options. So, unless that black woman is super exceptional and is, again, already part of that community, most cases they're not really interested in these women outside of, that nuclear waste facility. They just want to get a little taste of the waste. You know, that's all they really want, in most cases. So when they talk about this stuff, it's just best to just tune a deaf ear and laugh at it, because it doesn't really matter what they're saying. Um, when you look at the actions, they speak louder than the words regarding this Negro female and swirling. I mean, you look at the options. I mean, and you look at the numbers. 70% of women are single, and yeah, they're tired of the Negro, but everybody else is pretty much not interested in her. That's all I have to say for this video. And comment, rate, and subscribe.